Ollie's good.
Ollie's good? Okay. Um, well, for this conversation, let me just make sure that the Fathom is not showing video. Yeah, I wanted to just kind of get a sense of the work that you've been doing, kind of where it all started, and kind of get the story around it, and an understanding of that. Share a little bit about what Seeds a DAO and then the RegenBEE platform is been working towards. It's a collaborative platform, and so we have right now 3 companies that are building together in a fair share commons model. So no one really owns the platform that we're building together, but we all steward it together. It's kind of the fair share commons, multi-stakeholder, multi-capital thoughts that we're going into this approach of building. And just seeing from the Coherence conversation what you shared, it was really interesting to kind of hear that we're speaking very similar language. And so I would love to see what ways we could possibly collaborate together, if there is any, and if so, if it's interoperability, what it might look like. And then from there, I'm going to be having conversations with people from Hilo, from folks from different organizations that are also building collaborative technology for the regenerative work that's being done. And it would love to see if we can even get each other, in like 3 or 4 way calls, in having conversations and roundtable discussion and in how collaboration could be done. Our current work, but how we imagine collaboration working together as well. So that's how I'd hope to kind of start this conversation off. Do you have any other thoughts, Ollie, on what you would like to have included in the conversation?
No, that sounds good. Yeah, like mentioned, I don't have a huge amount of time now, so I've probably only got like 15 minutes if we can.
Okay.
Okay. The version.
Okay. Yeah, well, maybe let's just start off with, I would love to just get an understanding of the story of how Open Co-op came to be and the work with regenerations and so forth.
Yeah, I'll try and give you the sort of high-level overview synopsis. So back in 2004, I wrote a paper called Participatory Democracy Networks, which was inspired by Roy Madron's book Gaian Democracies, which kind of suggests that we might be able to manage the world, in what you might imagine Gaian democracies are. So sort of localized democracies which all feed together and are much more, localized, with subsidiarity. So decision making pushed to the lowest possible levels rather than having these big top-down corporate structures. And that really resonated with me and what I was doing around, learning about the internet at the time. So I suddenly had this sort of epiphany, like, hey, we could design a new system and we could make the world work so much better if we had all these localized, democratically controlled systems. And so I published that, and then several people got in touch who shared similar ideas, just like yourself has done now. And so we got together and decided to work together, and then formed the Open Co-op based on that conversation, where we spent a few days together and came up with this idea that we were going to create this organization which was committed to creating a collaborative, sustainable economy. So we thought, this is smart. This is 2004, so this is a long time ago, and we're all got exactly the same mission. So we set off trying to do that. Then realized how difficult it was. We had a website, and we built this wiki, and we started getting all this information together. But it's a huge piece of work trying to design a new economy effectively, even though we were just trying to pull people in, not necessarily create the whole thing, just trying to network people together. And so we learned some lessons along the way, and changed our tactics a little bit. Other people went off, started building other bits of the technology that they thought that we would need, whereas other people focused on their local communities, which is obviously where this is all sort of grounded. And then much later on, in about 2016, 15, 16, we discovered that Nathan Schneider and others were working in the New School in New York on a concept called platform co-ops, which was basically sort of the same thing that we'd been talking about all these years earlier, like the idea that big platforms could be cooperatively owned and democratically controlled. So they ran a big conference in America about that, and we kind of leapt on the same bandwagon and put together a big conference here in London in 2016. And we did another one in 2017 and 18 and 19, and it rolled on. And a lot of people sort of bought into the idea, which was this sort of merging the two worlds of cooperatives and open source technology. So we brought together people from both these spaces, and even councillors and politicians as well, who were all very passionate about it, to talk and discuss. And we learned a lot along the way. But one of the things that seemed to keep coming back to the forefront was this idea that there shouldn't necessarily be one platform or one place where people go to do this stuff. Actually, one of the better solutions is to utilize shared protocols so that I can stay in my own environment and still do the things that I do here, but what I do is interoperable with the things that you do in your platform and your network somewhere else in some other part of the world. So out of that, which largely sort of flowed from the conference in Open 2018, we kickstarted this project called Murmurations, which was, drawing on the concept of these birds flocking in incredibly beautiful kind of ways, all based around these really three simple rules, which say, don't get too close to me, don't get too far away, but head forwards towards grace, effectively. And we kind of figured if we could come up with some sort of similar formula, which would enable people and organizations working within the regenerative economy to map themselves according to those things. So like, this is where I'm headed, this is my purpose or my vision of where I'm trying to get to. As long as I keep espousing that and telling people near me, like, here's what I'm doing, and try not to crowd anybody out by doing exactly the same thing, but also don't get too far away by doing something that's so left field that I get lost away from the flock, then maybe we could start to reveal some of these synergies. And that has now morphed over 4 or 5 years into this much bigger concept, which is to do with interoperability and data sharing in general. So we've basically created a framework in which people can create schemas for any type of data object, be it, weather data or a person or a book, like a resource or a place or anything like that. And by sharing the same fields, so, a name for a resource is very similar to a name for a person or a name of a weather station. And by using the same name field and other related fields and making sure that they're used in the same way across these different data types, we increase interoperability. So the data that you hold in your local network can be compatible with the data that I hold in my data network. And if we share it, we've suddenly got this commons, which is much more useful for everybody in the regenerative economy, rather than everybody working away in their own little silo or on their own platform. So that's, in a nutshell, is sort of largely what we've been pushing for about the last 25 years. And I'm not saying we've succeeded in any way, but we've made some small steps. And I think, staying in touch and telling others what we're doing is a big part of that.
Oh, beautiful. Well, and so the this Coherence group of collaborative technology folk that are trying to move things forward in the regenerative realm, it seems very much aligned with the work that you're doing. And so it'll be cool to see how many conversations we can actually have in this space. I liked how you mentioned in the murmuration, it's something where you don't get too far away from the other, but you also don't stay too close. You give each other space that's needed, and make sure that you have a really clear direction on where you're going, so that others can see that as well. And the schema that you're playing in or developing that allows for that interoperability, I think is so key. And I'm starting to realize that myself as we've been building our own platform. We actually stepped away from the technology side of things and saying, okay, well, there's lots of people building technology, doing different features that are very helpful to what we're doing. And one of the biggest things for us was we recognized two challenges within our focus has been the regenerative business economics ecosystem, or the kind of the economic rooting of this, right? We're actually, we call it the RegenBEE, the ecosystem that we're building, regenerative business economics ecosystem, but we also call it the regenerative bioregional economics ecosystem. And either word is actually fine for describing what we're working on. And we kind of want to keep it loose because there's so many ways that you can describe this type of work and the ecosystem for what it is, right? But one of the biggest things, the two challenges that we saw was, one, gathering is really difficult for ecosystems to be able to communicate with one another at the right time in the right place and to understand where they're going, essentially, like that purpose that you were mentioning. And then the second part of that is, once we start gathering, a lot of us in the regenerative movement have noticed, it's not just ourselves within the RegenBEE builders, I guess you could say, is once we're few and far between is when we're gathering, we notice. And there's a lot of people in between that are maybe on that tipping point to understanding the principles that we're working from, the design philosophies, the right alignment with nature, and those pieces being really critical. Once we started gathering, the bigger challenge then becomes organizing for that ecosystem and being able to. The schema is kind of how you're helping us to come and organize. In our way, it's governance structures. And so what we're trying to lend to the ecosystem is, first, let's help the ecosystem understand who are players and the key stakeholders, and also gathering the understanding of the right capital that is there, right? Multi-level capital, not just financial capitals, and those resources mixed with the right stakeholder understanding. That's the gathering work. Once we work towards that, it's about organizing the stakeholders and the resources, the different capital structures, in such a way that allows us to more easily collaborate with one another. So that's the two big things that we noticed is, one, it's hard to gather, and the other is it's really hard to organize one another in a governance structure that allows us to have initial trust, yes, but to be able to, with a small amount of trust, have the right structuring and governance that we can go into these collaborative relationships and understand that, yes, this is multi-stakeholder, this is multi-capital structuring. I can trust the governance enough that I can actually go in and meet with other people within my ecosystem without having full trust that our collaboration is going to be beneficial on both sides, because we understand the governance structure is representing multiple capital structures, multiple all stakeholders, right? And so that's the kind of work that we're working towards, and it starts with an incubation acceleration program for latent potential markets that are regenerative. So not going after one business and incubating a business or a couple of businesses in a certain field, but going after the entire ecosystem, understanding, gathering that ecosystem and organizing it, but then incubating and accelerating that the ecosystem rather than the individual one-off businesses in collaborative means. And so we've been talking to investors. We've been trying to build technology that allows for that to easily happen. Mapping is a kind of a huge piece of that. One of the big things that we've been talking to investors that are doing, especially because they're a big stakeholder that's hard to get to the table within ecosystems, is the funders. We're noticing that their impact investors are trying to do more investment just in the ecosystem rather than these one-off businesses. It's really, really hard for them to calculate the need or the ability, the risk factors, and have the right amount of information for them to dive in and invest in an ecosystem as a whole instead of these one. It's easier to simplify, right? And reduce to one-off businesses rather than the entire ecosystem. So we've been working on the technology side to figure out how we can make it easy for funders and other stakeholders to easily come to the table with the right metrics and understanding why this ecosystem is something that you should be involved in or gathering with and organizing with us. So I'll leave it at that. There's a lot of pieces in between. I think we can start the conversation there to just knowing that we have at least an understanding on both sides of the work that we're doing. And then maybe we can schedule another time to dive into how we might be able to collaborate on the work that we're both doing.
So I think that makes sense, but I'm sort of lacking a practical example. I'm wondering if you've got a sort of simple case study that you can give me of a sort of organization or network that you might be helping and how.
Yeah, that would be great. If we have the time, I can dive into that. So we're talking about when we mention latent potential markets for regeneration, we're looking at in a lot of ways what's already being done out there and where's the heat, if you were to heat map the actual work that's being done moving towards regenerative economies, you might find a hotspot in a certain bioregion that's working towards regenerative food supply, for example, or regenerative fiber industry or something like that. And so we're working in different realms, 7 realms to be exact, with our incubation practice and trying to create, and those 7 realms are designed off of, are you familiar with permaculture flower? Yeah, so we're using the permaculture flowers as our realms of sorts. And then, so the 7 realms, and then we're going bioregionally. So there's kind of 2 ways that you can organize and gather and organize. We gather for one of those 7 realms. Those can be internationally or across multiple bioregions, but effectively the work that they're working in is going to be directed towards specific bioregions. And so you can either be in that guild, in one of those realms, or you can be working bioregionally in work. So for our first initial incubation process, we need enough critical mass that we can show that this is an ecosystem. We're also working with ergodic investment practices. If you're familiar with ergodicity, it's basically at its essence, it's if you look at nature's very anti-fragile because it allows for collaboration and competition, but mostly collaboration within different ecosystems upon ecosystems, right? And so you can have the individual gut biome that interacts with, everything at a larger whole and continually larger, or even circles overlapping with other circles or ecosystems overlapping with that. So the idea is with the 7 realms and the bioregional work, we're picking 3 bioregions to start incubating, 1 in North America, 1 in Central, and 1 in South. And then we're doing those 7 realms, and we're gathering first an understanding of, we're actually talking to ecosystem builders, a stakeholder within that we defined within the ecosystem that's gathering themselves and also organizing. And we're asking them to continue doing the work that they're already doing, but to do it collaboratively within their ecosystem. So we bring in 3 to 4 ecosystem builders. Let's just say an example I use often now is marine permaculture, if you're familiar with what's happening in marine permaculture. It's a very latent potential market in the sense that they're re-establishing kelp forests and ecosystems. And there's a lot of technology that's becoming available now for that to come up and to happen, but there's not a lot of market for kelp forests at this point to be able to introduce it to the economy. So there's ecosystem builders out there right now. Brian von Herzen, if you've ran into his work with the Climate Foundation, is doing a lot of work he invented a technology that helps to grow kelp forests in warmer oceans because we're seeing rising temperatures. And so that technology, though, has really not a strong use in our current economy, but it
Okay.
can have these latent potential pieces. So if I bring in Brian von Herzen and I bring in, there's another ecosystem builder in the ocean space called Seaworthy Collective. That's a incubator accelerator. And there's a few others in the ocean space. And we get them to collaboratively gather the stakeholders and gather, not just gather, but then have the governance structures that help them to organize more clearly together. We can start to build collaborative resourcing between those ecosystem builders, but also the other stakeholders that they are currently already bringing in. Their networks start to fill out more, and the ecosystem is more well represented. So that's an example of a realm, the oceans kind of realm, marine permaculture realm, that we would then apply to bioregions. For example, in Central America, there's a really strong need for redeveloping kelp forests. And you can actually do fisheries, you can do all sorts of different things. It could produce local economy. And so we would start to apply what that ecosystem is building into an actual bioregional effort. That's, in a nutshell, an example, I guess you could say, for our incubation acceleration programming that we're building out.
Okay. It's good. Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, it sounds, highly ambitious, and it's tricky because, in my experience of sort of gathering people together, like collaboration, is hard. And, you get, even when there's overlapping interests and knowledge, we often sort of hit this wall to collaboration and cooperation, which is that people tend to be focused on the thing that they're focused on within their organization, and they want to pursue that because that's their mission. And even when you come along and you say, hey, look, these guys over here are doing something really similar that's totally related to what you've been doing, you should talk to them. And they go, yeah, that's great. And they carry on, keep their head down and do the thing. So the work that you're doing, sounds more like it's the networking piece, which was reminding me of Richard Flyer with his symbiotic networks. I don't know if you've been following what he's doing, but he's written this book and he's promoting this concept which he calls symbiotic networks, which, he's trying to say that you don't need another organization, that basically in order to build these regenerative networks, it's best not to try and create something new. You try and really get people to stay where they are, still do the thing that they're doing, because that's what they're going to do anyway, right? We know that now from experience.
Yeah.
But somehow get them to just understand that the others are there and are related and are linked in somehow, and then slowly build towards these more constructive symbiotic networks.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I'm trying to find the book right now. Richard Flyer, Flyer.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, that sounds like a definite read that I'm going to have to pull up here, because it is definitely something that we're not trying to build what's not there already. We're trying to establish what's already there and help make sure that there's collaboration happening between the ecosystem itself, right? Okay, cool.
It's hard, I appreciate your ambition, and I think it's good, solid work. Like, it needs to be done, but I'm not saying it's easy in any way. And our experience is like, it's the hardest thing, because people, everyone has their own purpose, and shared purpose is, what really delivers the change. But encouraging sort of that coalescence around shared purpose is super difficult, it seems.
Yes, it definitely is. I'm not saying that we have the answers. We have more of a test and hypothesis of what this incubation could do. And then the technology side of it really comes down to the bigger pieces that we're working on is a open feedback loop for this work. So making it really transparent on what individual stakeholders are doing within the ecosystem. so that everybody can kind of see, and then for them to make it easy to something like you see like the open source world, like GitHub technology, making it really easy for people to see exactly what's going on, and even to utilize that technology for themselves in an open way. Say, oh, I like what you're doing, but I would do it this way, or I would do it. And so that's part of the technology that we're trying to figure out, is like, how do we make it really transparent for everybody to see? And then on top of that, reciprocity is a huge piece of this, right? For us to be able to collaborate really easily with one another, the resources got to be readily understood of what's there in the ecosystem, so the transparency built upon that. But how I interact with that is all about reciprocity. So we're trying to build a reciprocity tracking system that allows us to see historically how organizations are actually and groups of organizations working together on shared goals. Specifically, we're using MOKR. Are you familiar with OKRs? Objective Key Results. It's a project management tool.
Okay.
It was popularized by like Google, for example, but others have used it. But it's a lot of times what it does when used in organizations, it tears down silos within organizations. They have to share projects that they're working on and show the progress that they're doing, and then invite people to give feedback and criticism on and help within the projects they're working on within teams and whatnot.
Okay.
And so we're doing that as a MOKR system to where anybody could see an objective. So this is probably where I think we might be able to collaborate. It's like that purpose that you were mentioning, and aligning it. Like that's the language that we would be using. Is what's that shared purpose could be the name of that crosses our platform to other platforms that are using your schema of sorts, right?
Right.
So that could be a potential, I guess, in a way, is like that could be shared across multiple platforms. You can come onto our platform and see it, how other organizations are sharing their objectives, key results, and their goals and visions, and where they're at in those goals. But also, we could share that with other platforms as well, and make it interoperable that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the dreams of murmurations, really, is that when you have an organization, so within the organization schema that we use, there's the organization name, then there's the description, with this sort of organization, but then it has a purpose field as well, where, and I think what you're saying is like taking it one step further, so there would be, sort of key objectives and the results as well, which would then enable you, if a lot of people were sharing that data publicly, because sure, there are a lot of these types of projects running already, right? It would be so much easier to find who is the expert in this. If I want to know about this subject matter, whatever it is, who should I talk to? Where should I look? Which site should I go to? Which is the sort of thing that, you can't Google, or you can try, but it doesn't help you. And even ChatGPT doesn't kind of get you there. It's more because these networks are kind of hidden and below the radar. They don't really seem to exist. And I think, the work we're trying to do is try and lift that up and make it, make it fly, literally.
No, I love there's also another thought on the murmurations from a marketing standpoint. I don't know how much time we can go into that, but I've been talking with a friend, Sophia Sakar, who's actually part of the collaborative tech Coherence conversation that we're building together, and she's working on a project. I didn't quite call it a murmuration until she was trying to say it, but it's a theory of like an anti-brand, where this brand you creates this anti-brand, or where no one owns the brand, but the entire movement stewards it. It's like a murmuration going in and out of different purposes, I guess you could say, or lack of a better, it focuses on helping this purpose, highlight this purpose. And then when we realize that we've done enough work here, the murmuration kind of comes over and takes a new
Okay.
effect here. But that when you said murmurations, I was like, oh, Sophia and I have been talking about murmurations for a little while on this anti-brand theory that we're trying to possibly create within the ecosystem of once you start shared purpose work and you've already done the gathering and you have shared purpose in the work that you're doing. Well, one of the biggest things that we can always do together is build narrative together. And that's something easy that we can collaboratively do. And so the murmuration kind of just goes from one purpose to another purpose and tries to do marketing, messaging, and narrative building for the work that's being done in a certain sector or vertical.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I can see that working. I mean, it's hard because brand sort of is a very solid thing that is normally formed in a kind of quite top-down way, but I still think it could work. And yeah, I like the analogy. I think it fits perfectly with the change in vision because whichever bird is kind of leading that murmuration, they clearly are following that direction for that split second in time. So yeah, I think it works perfectly. It reminds me of a concept that we worked on called the Open Data Club as well, which was this idea that all cooperatives would come together. As principle 6 of the cooperative principles is cooperatives should support other cooperatives, and it's largely the most sort of underused or under-honored aspect of cooperatives, I think, for the same reason I was saying earlier. Like, it's hard, everyone's got their head down and they focus on their own thing, and another co-op pops up and they might buy from them or sell to them, but they rarely get together and try and collaborate. So this was an idea that co-ops would join this club and share their marketing lists, basically. So if you want, you're a co-op and you're promoting a music sharing platform, and I'm a co-op and I've got a bike sharing platform, like I will promote your thing to my list and you will promote your thing to mine. Or there could be some, if there's more people, it could be a different kind of reciprocity. It doesn't have to be cash, doesn't have to be even just direct unilateral swaps, bilateral swaps. It could be, multi-party, people doing different things for each other. And that others could individuals could subscribe to this cooperative, paid for receiving marketing pitches. So I might think, okay, I'm quite open to being marketed to from co-ops because I know they've got this ethical basis, right? And they're going to not be the same as all the hideous corporate stuff that I get. So I might say, yeah, if you want to pay £1, you can send me one email a week from this data co-op, right? And then you do your murmurations thing. So whichever one's leading gets to send the marketing message for that week, which goes out to all the people that are a member of this, and people get paid, right? And that's still cheaper for the brands that are involved, because if they wanted to go and buy Google clicks, they would be bidding like £2 or £3 per click, and they don't even know if they're going to get to a consumer that's interested. Whereas this way, you have all of this data on these consumers or people rather than consumers, and you know what their interests are and that they've volunteered to receive marketing communications. So it's worth paying for that because you're going to deliver your message to a receptive audience. So I think that kind of fits within the marketing brand murmuration idea as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun project to are you still pursuing that? Or
it dropped. I was working on it with another partner, and it was very hard to get off the ground. We got a couple of hundred co-ops sort of signed up, but then we wanted to hit much more, maybe 1,000, and then move to the sort of data sharing piece, but it lost momentum before we ever really achieved the goal, to be honest. So we've parked it. The concept, all the write-up is still there. It's sitting there, and but it's a project on hold.
Huh. Well, it sounds like a very worthwhile project to bring back at a certain point whenever that does come relevant. Yeah. Well, Ollie, it's been a pleasure. I know you have to get going, so we're having a shorter conversation today. But I would love to find another time to bring you in on some more collaborative conversations within this ecosystem, but also just within the work that we're doing on RegenBEE. And so maybe one of the call to actions that I would ask for you or to put it into the marketing term would be if it's possible to invite you into some more discussion around a collaborative technology circle or guild. The tools and technology, not guild, but realm within that permaculture flower is something that we're one of the first circles that we're building out. And if you're interested in maybe exploring that gathering and organizing methodology for our incubation, I'd love to see if you're interested in that. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people through the Collaborative Technology Alliance, and we're already working with Tibet from Hilo and various others on those sorts of things. So yeah, be happy to be involved, and hopefully I've got useful information to share.
Yeah, I definitely want to have. I've had a couple conversations with Tibet, but not within this coherent structure. And so I'm going to have another one. See if is there a meeting tomorrow actually? Because I thought there was supposed to be one on the 1st, but I didn't really see too much going on on Hilo for it. So there was supposed to be a meeting I think tomorrow, but so I was going to try to join and see what's going on because I actually haven't had a conversation over there and joined you guys for a conversation at the Collaborative Tech Alliance.
Okay. Yeah,
so you've been working with them then?
I'm not sure. It's not in my calendar, but maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been quite a while actually. The latest thing that we're doing is trying to use orations to map together all of the groups that they've got within Hilo and within Vincent Serena's Catalyst system as well, to produce this ecosystem map of all the organizations within the Collaborative Technology Alliance, so that you can actually see the relationships between them and their areas of expertise, and doing that in a quite a novel, decentralized way that's never been done before. So it's been quite slow progress, but we've almost got a result now which we can show, which is sort of built on these decentralized profiles, not just so it's like a cross-platform map, which I've never seen before. So
yeah, I'd love to see the results of that. And you're doing that within the CTA.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Ollie. And I'll keep you informed on the next parts of the conversation and invite you into maybe some of the shared conversations that we have later on.
Cool. Thanks, Joshua. It's been great to chat.
Yeah, you as well, Ollie.
All right.
Ciao.
Ciao.